Where do you see yourself a year from now? Today is August 15th, Monday.
I see myself continuing to do what I love to do, and that's music. And it's hard to say what exactly that means or where exactly that will be. There's lots of different opportunities, lots of different doors opening, other doors closing. But a year from now, I hope that all these songs, this album is finished and out there. And not only that, but a year from now I should have a solo album out. And who knows where those things will lead. But I'm going to continue to be working hard and pursuing my dreams and putting as much into this music and into my passion as I can. That's all I can say.
I'm Chris Hamilton, aka Nevio Hamilton. Got my boy Micaiah Walker right here, and he is a lead singer of VerseCity, which we'll be talking about today because they have a new album coming out called The End. Or did you want to get to that?
Yeah, it's called The End. It's a new album.
And you seem like a pretty positive guy. What's with all the gloominess of the end? Who's ending here?
So, I think a lot of people, when they see that the name of the album is called The End, they're probably going to think, oh, they call it that because it's the end of VerseCity.
Yeah.
But, that's not creative. That's not the real reason.
You sure? I think there's going to be some fans out there that's thinking otherwise.
See, anybody who doesn't see this interview is going to think that's why, but that's not why at all. The real story is that there's a song called The End, and that song is one that we wrote back in 2012. We wrote a few of these songs back in 2012, actually, and it's crazy that we're finally getting to release them, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
So The End was a song we wrote back then. We had signed a record deal, and this record label was having these other people write all these songs for us, and we were just kind of like, okay, these are kind of cool, but not really us.
What kind of songs were these?
Man, it was just it's not that they were bad songs. It just wasn't. It just didn't feel right. They were very pop heavy, very overproduced.
Yeah. They didn't have any Lil Wayne writing for y'all? Or?
No, nothing like that.
Man,
anyways.
Could have got Drake as a ghostwriter. He pretty.
Drake? Yeah, I don't think they could afford that. So we had this song that we had just written called The End. And we wanted to play it for this record label guy because it was one that we really felt good about. We really liked it. It had a deep meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
We felt it. And we played it for him. And his response was...
Wait, who wrote The End?
It was a combination of, I think, primarily Solo and myself.
Okay.
But we played it for this record label guy, and he said to us, I want the last 3 minutes of my life back after we were done. And we were just kind of like, yeah, we were just kind of like, what? And he was like, sorry guys, that made me want to slip my wrist. And it was and I was thinking this dude didn't even listen to the song. The song's about making the most of every moment because you never know when the end is going to be.
Yeah.
And just living life to the fullest and making sure you have no regrets.
Do you think he had some regrets, and that's maybe why he...
I think he had a lot of regrets, but but that's the reason why the song is called The End, and it was that moment right there when we decided we're gonna do it our way.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put our emotion and our passion into these songs, and we're not gonna let somebody else change us and mold us into something that we are not.
Yeah.
And that's why we call the album The End, because it was that moment. After we were writing all these songs to record another album, we didn't know it was going to take 7 years to get it finished, but that's how long it took, and here we are, and that's why the album is called The End.
That's a long time for an album to come out. I personally had time to move to California
and move back to California again. Yeah, it's been a long time for sure.
So what's taking this album so long?
So we took probably a good 2 years to write a bunch of songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was 2012, I think. And, you know, we had a couple guys leave the band, got a couple new guys in, and we were ready to record around 2014, 2015. We wrote a bunch more songs. At that point, we probably had around 30 songs.
Oh, wow.
And we found the studio we wanted to record with, because it's a whole process, you know, like picking a studio that you're going to be paying a lot of money to, and working out the deal. And
y'all record all the songs like at one studio?
Yeah.
Or?
We recorded every song with Mike Silva at Blackbeard Studios, and we just felt good about the relationship we had with him. We didn't know that he'd end up becoming a member of the band later on.
Yeah.
But the contract that we had with him as an engineer and at the studio that he worked with was completely separated from him ending up being a guitar player for the band for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But we signed that contract with him. We kind of still had to work through a few. We only had about 7 or 8 of the songs completely ready at that point, and the rest of them we kind of still had some things to work out. And you know, it was somewhere after we got done recording those first 8 songs out of what was supposed to be 14, it ended up being 13 songs. We, you know, a couple guys quit the band, and I had signed the contracts with the studio. Yeah. Saying that, you know, they owed us this many songs.
So did they quit the band because this is the end? Or?
Man, you know, things happen. I don't know that there's any one reason.
Yeah.
I think that you know, it started when Solo decided to leave the band.
I was about to ask you that, because now Solo was one of my favorites in the band. Like he's a pretty crazy performer.
He was my favorite in the band.
Alright, Solo's gonna ask you the next question.
You ready?
Yeah.
Why do you like VerseCity? And it's okay to say because of Solo.
Did you ever get mad that because a lot of times I saw him play the guitar on stage with his tongue.
With his teeth.
I'm pretty sure
it was his teeth, not his tongue.
Okay. I mean, you can say that. I think it was his tongue. But, you know, were you just upset that maybe the lady fans took they looked at Solo, it was like, hey, he can play the guitar, man. No. I've never seen Micaiah play the guitar like that. So was this really a thing where you just kicking Solo out of the band, or?
No, not at all. I was in line with the lady fans. I thought his guitar playing was incredible, man.
Yeah.
You know, me and him, we've kind of reconnected a little bit. I talk to him every now and then, but there was a point like we were best friends, you know.
Yeah.
So it was really tough when he came and he told me that. I didn't understand it at all. It didn't make any sense to me, and I was angry. I was mad. So I just didn't understand. Like me and him worked together for so long. We wrote so many songs, and like
I remember at one point y'all were working on a project apart from the band, right?
Yeah, we even had a side project that we were gonna call City of Verses, and it was gonna be acoustic songs, like acoustic guitars with hip hop beats.
Yeah.
And then we were both gonna like equally sing on the tracks.
Okay.
We had like 20 songs, and we recorded.
What happened with those songs?
Most of them we just never finished. Okay. We finished maybe 4 of them, 4 or 5, and I'm gonna make those songs available through one of the packages for the on the IndieGoGo campaign that we're gonna do with
nice.
The VerseCity project. So those songs that we did finish, or that we at least got close to finishing, those are gonna be available on one of the packages. So it's not just those 2. We got a lot of other random unreleased songs that will never be released, songs that didn't make the cut for this final album. You know, it's the band, we have to vote on which songs are going to make the album.
And how do y'all go about that vote? Is it rock, paper, scissors, or coin flip, or?
No, whoever like punches the hardest gets to pick all the songs. No, the way I think we did it was everybody who was in the band at that point got to pick one song that they wanted. So that way they at least got their favorite song on the album. And then after those 4 or 5 songs were set in stone, we kind of voted to figure out the rest of the songs. And you know, like I said, we had around 30 songs that we were considering for this album, and we only got to choose. We only got to choose. I think it was 13. So when it came down to it, we had to cut a bunch, and some of those cuts were
Who
tough.
was in charge of y'all choosing which, or was it up to the band, like choosing like only 13 songs? Why was it?
I think the contract we had with the studio was for 14, but when it came down to it, we only ended up having 13, and like I said, we only had 7 or 8 songs ready when we signed the contracts.
Okay.
And we recorded all those, and then, so when Solo left the band, we already had the other 7 songs written and in place, and he had actually already tracked most of his guitars on those. And we were going to do a 14th song too, we just hadn't tracked it yet. But at that point, it was like Solo left, and then Brett left.
Morale from the band, the morale of the band kind of dropped.
Yeah, Brett left the band. He said, if Solo's not going to be in the band, I don't really know if I want to be in the band anymore.
Yeah.
And then, Mike, who was our engineer and was also working at the studio, he had started playing guitar with us in the mix there too. And he just said, my thing with this band was that, you guys had a lot of great songs and you guys were going somewhere, and now it seems like things are falling apart. So, like, he was kind of out as well.
Yeah.
So that just left me and Brian, and we just had to kind of, at that point, not worry about trying to add a 14th song. Let's get done what we have available to us. We still hadn't tracked drums in the last 7 songs, I believe, so we still had to do that. Let's see, if we already had 7, it would have been 6. We had 6 more songs to track drums on. So we ended up just, everybody was cool. Like with Brett, he just said, like, you guys are cool, I like the songs, I want to help finish the album, but it's just not really like a project that I'm going to be a part of moving forward. So he still came in. We actually, at that point, we paid him to come in and finish out his drum tracks, and just kind of bought him out of the album. And we did the same thing with Mike to finish his guitar tracks, outside of being the engineer and the guy working for the studio. He came in and started writing parts for us, so we paid him for his work there. And yeah, we just, at that point, we felt like we had to finish it. And another reason why it took so long was because after that stuff happened, after Solo left, and then Brett and Mike all kind of like left the band and things were falling apart, we started to slow down recording. We started recording, I think, in 2015. Yeah. And when Harvey
that was
hit,
like around the time I had left to go to California.
Yeah. Well, you were there for like the first few sessions.
Yeah.
We got a lot of good footage there. But when Harvey hit Houston, it flooded the studio. And it ruined the studio. Like it was flooded. And so the studio was shut down for, I want to say, a year.
Did y'all lose anything?
We got lucky. Fortunately, Mike had backed up all of the songs and everything was good. So as far as what we had done to that point, we didn't lose anything. I know the studio itself, I think, lost some equipment and had a lot of damage done, to the point where I think Mike ended up moving out of the studio and he built his own studio, which is where we ended up finishing the rest of the album.
Okay.
Within the last year or so.
How long did it take to finally get back to?
It was a while, because after Harvey hit, the studio flooded. They weren't up and running for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I want to say it was almost a year where we did nothing, no recording, no post production, nothing like that to try and get the album.
It has to be hard as a creative. You know what I'm saying? You usually when you're on a roll as a creative, you want to keep on.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting it done, because when you kind of stall on it, it makes you kind of not even want to.
Yeah. I think it was a little bit of the perfect storm, only because of the fact that the other guys had left the band, and so it really just kind of fell on me and Brian, and Brian is very into how his bass sounds and how the drums match with his bass, and he gets involved with the other stuff too. Not to say that he doesn't, but a lot of the other production, the guitars and how the structure and all that stuff, that's a lot of stuff that I'm more into working on. So a lot of that just fell on me, and the guys left the band, and then Harvey happened, and that was around the time when then the guys from Polaroid Summer hit me up and were like, hey, we're looking to start a new project. And so it was kind of the perfect storm of this was going in this direction, and these guys wanted to start something fresh that was going in this direction.
Right.
And so I just kind of hopped on that to see where it went, and that kind of filled in the creative lapses that I was having and not able to fulfill with VerseCity and with all that stuff that was going on there.
Yeah.
So I jumped in with Polaroid Summer like full steam ahead, and just that project started to take off, and it was going really well, and it's still going really well. But knew in the back of my mind that these VerseCity songs were like, they were still deep in my heart. Like, still have a lot of passion and hold those songs very dear. And I love these songs, man. These are some of the best songs that I've ever recorded and that I've ever worked on. And I'm really excited for.
I heard a few of them. I haven't heard like a lot of them in their completion, but I heard a few of them like when you guys were working on them, and then also when you guys were performing at the shows. I liked a lot of them. Especially, I don't think it was on well, it's not on this album, I know, but there was this other one that was on one of the previous albums called Pressure.
Oh, Pressure was on Hybrid. Yeah, that was our third release, but it was technically our second public album.
Okay.
So
now that song, I remember you telling me that you liked the song, but there was other things you wanted to change on there if you could go back and change it. Now, to me, the song sounded fine. Now, as an artist, as a creative, how do you walk that fine line between perfection and just finally getting it out there so people can hear what you got?
It's tough, man. Like, I feel like when we go to record these songs, even with this new album that we have out, you know, you get to a point where you think the song is finished, and you could keep going and keep making changes forever as a creator, because 2 weeks later you might think, man, I heard this new cool sound or I had this new idea, right? And you can always continue to make changes, but at some point you just have to say, look, this song is good. It's good where it's at. It's time to just let it be done, and move on and put it out there. And you know,
who is the one that just like who in the band would be the one that's like, hey, we gotta go ahead and get this out there?
That was probably Brian. I would say, you know, because I would the one who would want to tinker with every little detail. I want to tinker with the guitars more, tinker with adding some synth sounds, you know, some electronic stuff here and there, tinker with the drums, tinker more with the vocals. We need to add some more harmonies, some backup. We need to get some crowd vocals in here. You know, and so like I always wanted to do everything, everything possible, and try everything possible. And I think Brian and also Mike would kind of like pull me back and be like, is that really necessary? Like, this is, you know, like that. It works, but you know, that part isn't necessary for what we're trying to do. And so I think after hearing that a few times, I came around and was like, all right, you know what, like, we're gonna make this album sound authentic and very real. Mostly I would say 90% of it, 95% of it is live instrumentation, like stuff that wasn't created on a computer or on a keyboard. You'll hear some random stuff here and there, but most of it was all, you know, Brian playing the bass, or solo and Mike playing guitars, you know, Brett playing drums, and all vocals that we did ourselves. You know, there's nothing fake about this. And so one thing that I think is really cool is that in this day and age where a lot of bands are using so much electronic sounds and so much of the music is actually fake, is it so much of this album is real, but it still sounds really slick, and it's the mix of the songs is still really good. So I'm excited about that, because it took me a long time to come around to being excited about that. So
okay, so now you got so many personalities. You're going from not only band to band, but you also had a band that members came and went, and then on the new band that you're with, you've had members that have came and went even before you got there.
Yeah.
So how do you manage all those egos, all those personalities? Also, you as a lead singer, how do you manage your own ego? And like, how does that chemistry start to build on and off stage?
Yeah, so two things I would say. As far as managing a group, I think it's either gonna work or it's not gonna work. And sometimes it didn't work, right? VerseCity in particular.
Did y'all ever just like vote on a person coming in or out?
Yeah, we definitely did. People got voted out for sure. People some people didn't. We tried out. There was a few people we tried out at different points who I liked. Other guys didn't like. So they didn't get voted in to join. And then, over the years of VerseCity, aside, not even counting the number of guys we had try out for the band, we had, I want to say, 4 different guitar players over the years, 2 different drummers, 3 different bass players.
Oh, wow.
So it's just, it's trying to find the right pieces. And sometimes those pieces might work for a while, but then, like you say, egos get in the way. And for me personally, managing my own ego, I think it's just a learning process. Like, there's definitely things that if I could change, I would go back and change the way I handle certain situations. But I think most of the guys in the band, and I've actually talked to some of them who've said the same thing, where like, we were young. Like, we started the band when we were teenagers, 18, 19. Our drummer was like 15, 14. He was in high school. We used to pick him up from high school and go to rehearsal. And so like we grew up in it, and as we grow up and you start to become more of an adult and you have more responsibilities, you're like, your life changes and your pattern and your path changes, and just the process of that, like, people change, and that's the parts that make it difficult. And it worked for a while, and then it didn't. And then you have your opinion, and sometimes people butt heads, and it just doesn't work out. So
did y'all just like hang around each other a lot to try and get that chemistry going?
Man, we hung out a lot, man. In the early days we would rehearse, and it was almost like I made it mandatory that we rehearse like 3 or 4 times a week, and we would rehearse. We'd have these long rehearsals for like 2 up to like 5 hours sometimes. We'd just be in our rehearsal room, and we would just be writing songs, and we'd just jam them out. And speaking of that, to the IndieGoGo campaign that we have that we're about to release here, a lot of those recordings I have, because I would always record on my iPhone, record every song that we ever came up with, just in case we forgot it, because we were often writing multiple songs in one night, and we'd come back the next day and be like, how did that one song go? Pull out the iPhone recording, press play, okay, I remember that guitar part, I can hear that drum beat now, right? And it would come back to us. So like, I recorded almost everything. And so I'm going to be putting some of these recordings of when we originally wrote a lot of the songs on the new albums, plus songs that we never even released, available in one of the packages for people to be able to get and to be able to hear a lot of the songs that didn't quite make the cut for the album, or some of the ones that did, and like how different they sounded back then when we had a different drummer and a different bass player when we originally wrote. Do you think
when they listen to it, they be like, I wish I had my 3 minutes of my life back?
You know what? I think the people who are gonna see this interview and who maybe don't see the interview but will get the album, like, we have a lot of great fans. We had a really cool fan base over the years. There's one thing I'm proud of is that people always came out to see our shows, and we had a real connection with a lot of our fans. And
I even saw like some of your VerseCity fans show up to like one of your Polaroids.
Yeah, some of them even just in supporting me, and I'm so thankful for that. That they not only supported the band and the music, but they supported us as people, and they cared about like our lives and how everything was going, and we kind of fed that right back to them, as well. And I think the people who are buying this, there are a lot of people, even still to this day, it's been years, right? It's been like 4 years since we started recording this album.
It's been a long time.
And some of the songs we wrote even before that. So I think, even recently getting back into the VerseCity social medias and making a couple posts like, hey, the album's still coming. People are still commenting and saying they're excited, and I think more people who remember us and who have that nostalgic feel, like I remember going to VerseCity concerts back when I was in high school and when I was in college, and now they're grown adults, and it's like I think they'll be interested in going back and checking out this new album, and I'm really excited for the whole thing to just be done, for one, and then two, for people to hear these songs that they've been waiting on for a long time.
Is there going to be a reunion show for the album release?
At the moment, no.
No.
I won't rule it out. It won't be a reunion show for the album release. There's no way we're gonna pull that together in time. But who knows? If enough people really buy into these songs and want the show to happen. You know, if there's a demand for a reunion show, I'm almost positive. I've spoken to most of the guys, like they would all do it.
Yeah.
They would love to come back. They all love these songs just as much as I do. It was just unfortunate things didn't work out necessarily the way we wanted to. So,
So what are some of your fave songs on the new album?
favorite song on the new album? That's like if you have multiple children and you have to pick a favorite child.
So which one's your favorite?
I don't know. I really like the song "The End." There's a song called "Victoria."
Okay.
That's not about somebody named Victoria.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. It's,
Did you write the song? Or?
I wrote it. Yeah,
Okay.
I wrote it. Me and Solo wrote the guitar. I wrote the lyrics and the melodies, but it's about victory.
Okay.
Just the way that I sing it, I sing the name Victoria, but it's victory. It's cool. You guys will have to check it out for sure. But I love that song. It's one of my favorites. It's one of our heavier songs on the album. Monster is a fan favorite that fans have been waiting on. That's one that I've heard more than anything else from the fans who've been waiting to hear that song. The album release version of that song for years. That one's really good. Crash Down is one that I think we only played live one time, so a lot of people haven't ever heard that one. It's really cool. Save Me is another one.
Okay.
If I had to pick one song that I thought could be a radio single, it would probably be Save Me.
Yeah. So, going back to when you guys were first really getting together and really getting success, you had a song that went viral. It was the TikTok
Rock.
What was it like transitioning from being like a band is really getting it going to all of a sudden getting all this viral success, and how do you think that viralness would be in today's social media age?
Yeah, so it was 2011, 2012 when all that kind of happened, and we were not prepared. We recorded the song as a joke. We were meeting with the producer, the guy who was producing our second album, Hybrid. We were having a meeting with him, playing him a bunch of songs. He was going to help us kind of select the final few songs for the album. And we had a show coming up, so we needed to get ready for the show. And we were covering that song for the show. And we really hadn't spent a ton of time on this cover, and we just played it, and he just happened to be in the room, as we were getting ready for the show, and he's like, "Hey, what was that?" And we were like, "Oh, it's this new artist named Kesha, and it's called TikTok." He was like, "That's really cool. You guys should record a cover of that." And he was like, "I might look into if I can figure out how to help you guys get a license to release it. We can record that for free at my studio. I won't charge you guys to record that."
Oh, wow.
And so we were just like, free studio time, okay. And so that was how it started, and we went and recorded it. Thought it would just be for fun, as a joke, and just kind of came together really well. And we released it. We got the license for it to be able to release it publicly and put it on iTunes, and it just kind of blew up. It blew up really on YouTube first.
Did you ever show Kesha?
Do
you think she saw it?
I had heard through our manager at the time, who knew her manager or knew the guy who helped her write the song. And he said, this is he said, she said, I don't know, but they said that it was they had said it was cool.
Yeah.
That they liked the version. So who knows if that really happened or not? I don't know.
She's probably looking at this video like, nah.
So yeah, the song took off. That was definitely one of the coolest moments as a musician. Just doing phone interviews with radio stations in Saudi Arabia and in Spain. I can't even remember. I did a lot in Australia was another one. The song reached, I think, number 2 or 3 on the radio charts in Indonesia.
Wow.
And so to compare that to the other part of your question, to today, back then we could only be on iTunes in, I think it was Europe and United States.
Okay.
There was we didn't have available to put our music on iTunes in China or in Indonesia or in any of Japan or any of these other countries where this song was blowing up. There was a guy in Japan who put the song to the background of an anime video. It's still on YouTube and it's got like 3 million views, right? And so, and a lot of the comments were like, man, this song is awesome. Because he just took random anime clips and he just sliced them together and had the song in the background. And most of the comments were about how cool the song was. And all of these people, I remember finding a site and there was something like 80-something thousand downloads of the song where they were downloading it for free.
Wow.
Because we couldn't sell it in those countries at that time.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can. You have the access through iTunes and Apple Music and Spotify to where an artist in the United States, like a younger band like we were at that time who came out of nowhere, we could monetize our songs in almost anywhere in the world nowadays. So that'd be a big difference. We probably would have made a whole lot more money than we did.
Do you think it helps or like this? Do you think it benefits or hurts the artist when something like them just downloading the song for free happens?
It's tough. Ultimately, it helps. It doesn't hurt. But you know, as an artist who you want to write new songs and put out new songs, that costs a lot of money. And so it definitely helps when people pay. But nowadays, like, not many people pay for music anyways. They pay for a Spotify service or Apple Music service.
Right.
And then they stream everything they want to stream. And what people don't realize is, like, you get 1 million streams on Spotify. 1 million, which is a lot. Most artists will never hit 1 million. But you get 1 million, and that earns you, like, less than $5,000.
Oh, wow.
So it's not like, and that's not life-changing money, right? You think 1 million streams, like, man, these guys are doing great. Like, no, that's not the case. So, like, streaming doesn't really...
A lot of people be happy to hit 1 million streams.
Yeah, I would love to hit 1 million, but, like, if you think about it as far as, like, you can't pay your bills off of 1 million streams, you know? Like, as an artist who's trying to make it and that be the way they make an income to support family and whatnot. So, it's tough. But, you know, I'd rather people have the music for free than not have it at all.
Yeah.
So.
And you were mentioning how hard it is for artists to really get money as far as streams go.
Yeah.
So, you're a musician. You've been in multiple bands. How do y'all go about getting, you know, paid for the music?
I mean, good paying gigs are few and far between. It's just really, I think ultimately what I've come to the conclusion of as an artist, if you want to make money, if you're going to make money on tours, you need to be a bigger artist, right?
Does that mean you have to sign to a label? Or?
It doesn't have to. There's been artists who are doing it without a label. Some of them have their own label. But it's just tough. Like, I think you either are a niche type artist where you've got just this diehard fan base and you don't sound like anybody else. You might not ever become a huge popular artist who's on the radio all the time, but if you have a certain niche and fans love that niche, then that could work for those artists, and they can tour and people are going to come out and they're going to fill venues every night. That can work. But I think for most artists like us who are really aimed more towards mainstream, it comes down to having at least one big song. We've never really had that big song. TikTok Rock was close. I mean, it got a lot of radio play in the U.S. and all over, but we didn't know how to capitalize on that. We were still young. Our foots were barely in the door.
Social media was still young.
Social media was still young. Yeah, there was no Instagram then. It was all like Facebook. MySpace, I think, had just died around that time.
Yeah. So
it was mostly Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube was like social media, but it wasn't like it is now.
So how would you go about marketing your band then?
Man, I don't. We just like guerrilla marketing. We just got out there. We hustled. We go to shows of big bands who were like us. We wait outside the doors and pass out flyers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, you know, back at that time, like nowadays, most kids from 12 to 20 have an Instagram account, right? And they're finding their bands and the artists they like on Instagram. But they didn't have that like back then. Like Instagram wasn't available, and our younger group of our fan base, you know, the younger part of it, they weren't allowed to be on social media.
Yeah.
So it was like their
Did you
parents.
think that hurts kind of the success of the band?
I don't know that it hurt, but it definitely hindered. Like, I feel like if social media was back then like it is now, we would have been able to capitalize on a lot more things, and our fan base would have been exponentially larger.
Yeah.
Had Instagram been around back in 2011.
I mean, doing a million streams on one song without it really being in the social media age as it is now, like,
Yeah.
There's no telling how many numbers it would did then.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Who
now,
knows?
yeah. Okay, so what's one of the craziest or coolest things that you've seen some of your band members do, either on or off stage?
Solo could do, I don't know what it's called, like a round out backflip, like gymnastics type thing, where he would run, and then he'd do like a somersault, and then he would jump up from that and do this backflip, and it looked really badass.
Yeah.
I think
Did you ever do it on stage?
No. I tried, and he was actually really considering, getting up on his amp and doing a backflip off the amp with the guitar, but he was just like, I think he was
while
a little
playing
nervous
the
about,
guitar with his tongue, not his teeth.
if he was ever not to like land that jump, like it would be bad news bears.
Yeah.
So I don't think he ever tried it. I think he might have tried jumping off of it, doing a backflip in rehearsal once, and he landed it, but he didn't have the guitar on him. So it was like, it was something we were never really gonna try. There was one time when we played Warped Tour, where like my tall ass jumped up and hit my head on the ceiling of the stage and busted it open. It was like bleeding.
Oh man.
I had to get staples.
Did the fans like get really crazy? They're like, yeah, bust your head.
I mean, it was so blistering hot outside, and I thought it was just sweat that I felt, right? And I kept like going like this to wipe sweat, and I would wipe my shorts, and my shorts were white.
Oh man.
And it happened, I think, our 4th or 5th song, and it was a short. I mean, Warped Tour is like the sets go quick, so we only played 6 songs, I think.
Right.
So it was like 2 songs left. It hurt really bad. It kind of made me dizzy for a second, but I was like, the show must go on, you know. Like I just thought I bumped my head, and when I first hit, I felt and I looked, and there was no blood, so I was good. Well, I guess it just like didn't bleed right away.
Yeah.
Because when the set was over, like in front of our stage, when we started, we had like 10 people, and by the time we were done, there was hundreds. Like people passed by, and, if a band's good, you draw them in, and we had a really good set for that day. And by the time our set was over, the crowd was like, "Hey, you're bleeding," and I was like, "Oh." They're like, "Look at your shorts," and I looked down where I'd been wiping my hand. It was like blood on my white shorts, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And there was like some blood dripping down, and it was like, ah. So I signed as many autographs as I could, probably a lot, probably 30 or 40, and we sold a bunch of shirts and CDs, and then luckily the hospital was like right across the street.
Oh, wow.
So I just ran over there, got some staples. There's actually a video on the band's Instagram account
of that happening?
Of the staples and like the wounds. You have to like scroll way back, but it's on there. There's a few pictures of it. I got 5 staples, went back out there, took some more photos with the fans.
How much pressure is it as an artist or as a musician to like stuff like that happens? Other things happen on the road, and you got a show coming up, or even during a show, or even right before a show, you have something happen. Maybe something happens with a member. Either somebody gets sick, or maybe a family member. Something happens. Like, how do you still always look to go and do the show, or is it like a case-by-case basis?
You always look to do the show, but it's definitely a case-by-case basis. We had being in a band as long as I've been in bands before, like you had those issues come up where family members die, there's funerals and there's sickness. For me in particular, like every year when the winter would come, like in the seasons change and the allergies and the air change, like I would always get sick. That was the one time a year I'd get sick. Yeah. And there'd always be shows right around then. And I think I would get so stressed out that would heighten like the allergies and the sickness because I was so stressed and I wouldn't get good sleep.
That has to be bad as a singer, especially. Yeah,
the worst because you don't want to cancel the show because you've worked so hard to promote it, and we did all of our promotion on our own. But there were some times where like I couldn't really didn't know if I was going to be able to sing that night, you know, and
Yeah.
it's just like, I try and layer my vocal cords as much as I could and just get through it. Sometimes I did fine, other times it was not great.
Yeah.
But we always tried to push through. I even remember a couple different guys who had deaths in their family. You know, they did their best to go to the processionals they needed to go to and just suck it up, you know, and be there for the band and play the shows. Because it was a lot of work. We put a lot of work into every show, to every performance, and then too, like for the fans who are looking forward to coming out to the shows. So we always wanted to make sure that we put every effort we could into making the show happen.
I'm kind of thinking we should change the strings.
You want to?
Do you feel like there's like a brightness that's like kind of not there?
I mean, we have been playing it a lot.
Yeah,
So,
I mean there might be time. I mean 2 songs per set of strings is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. That last note.
I mean, I think they're totally fine. I'd play on them, but for recording, maybe we should. Dude, we've gone through so many strings.
And that recording is probably fine. Excuse me.
Actually, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but I actually don't remember how the chorus goes. I'm not
No, that's the chorus.
Oh, see, there you go. I don't know how the verse goes, I guess. Well, actually, no, I do
The
remember.
verse is.
So there's a lot of fun. There's also a lot of mental stress.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you go about finding that balance, that work-life balance, creative life balance? You know, you got your family on the other end, you got friends that you got, you know, people want to spend time with you, but you also got to record music and things like that. You got shows. Like, how do you find that balance?
You have to find that personally. For everybody it's different. For me, like, I know I had a lot of friends, a lot of my good friends from high school, like, I didn't have as much time for them if I wanted to pursue music the way
Did
that
you lose
I was.
a lot of friends during that time?
I wouldn't say that I lost a lot of friends, but I lost a lot of close friends. Like, I'm still, you know, I'm still friends with a lot of those guys, but we were real close, right? And because I didn't have time, like, they would always invite me to go here, to go there, and it's like, I can't, like, the band's got a show that weekend, or we're going out of town that weekend, or we have to rehearse tonight because we got a show this weekend, you know, and this is the only time this
So it's a lot of
leading up with
sacrifice.
the other guys. So, like, that's just me, and I know other guys over the years had to sacrifice a lot, and I think that's something that gets taken for granted. I think that's something I took for granted. Like, I was always thinking about what I was having to sacrifice, you know, and it's part of my ego, right? And sometimes I wouldn't consider what some of the other guys in the group were having to sacrifice. And I was tough, man. You guys, you know, if you're not coming to rehearsal, you can't be in the band. You know, so you got to come to rehearsal. We got to make these rehearsals every week. We got to have time to write songs. Like, I was, to an extent, like, I was like a drill sergeant with, like, how hard I wanted everyone in the band to work, because I spent, like, every day and night working on the band, especially like the first 5 or 6 years when VerseCity, from when we started it as teenagers. Like, that's all I did. I went to school. I got grades good enough to pass in college, and but it was all about VerseCity, everything. And I wanted the other guys in the band to be just as gung-ho as I was about it. And so I remember that's one thing looking back that you know, like, it's hard to really, when you're in a group of people like that and you're young, it's hard to really see the sacrifices that the other people are making too in their lives. So
How do you deal with, like, say if you have a band member, because you did have a band member once that wanted to go solo, and so how do you deal with things like that?
Yeah, I forgot about that. I said earlier we had 4 different guitar players. He would have made 5. Man, we had so many different guys in the band over the years. It was just one of those things, like, he wanted to be in the band because we had a lot of good things going on, right? He wanted to be a part of something that was great and that was going somewhere. And but he also wanted to be the lead guy. He wanted my spot. He didn't necessarily want to take my spot, but he wanted to be that guy who's in the front, who's leading the audience and you know, doing his own thing. And so it just, you know, he told me that. He was straight up with me about it, and I said, look, you know, if that's what you want, that's what you need to do.
Right.
You know, but we would love to have you, and I think you should consider that you joining forces with us would be better than you going off on your own. That was my opinion. He went off on his own, and he's done some cool stuff. So I think for him, he made the right decision, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Do you think he ever looks back and be like, oh yeah, that was the end?
No comment.
Okay, so what's the goals of this band now that, you know, things have kind of finally gotten the album coming out?
Yeah, I hate to say that like VerseCity doesn't exist anymore, because ultimately, like, the band VerseCity is all about the music, right? And the music's not going to end. The music's not going to die. Like, these songs will live on forever. So as far as like long-term goals go, it's just these songs that we're about to release. The only goal really is just to get them out to people who want to hear them, and then if there's a demand, then we'll see how we can adjust and
Have
how
a reunion show?
Potential reunion show. Yeah, if there's a demand for it, for sure. But there's no goals like there used to be. You know, when we were a working band that was rehearsing at least once a week, and you know, we had shows coming up, and we were writing new stuff like that. You know, that's out of the picture now. It's not really much of a band anymore. It's just myself and Brian Brewer, who didn't ever actually quit the band.
Yeah.
So the goals would just be, you know, the goal has really been this album, finishing this album now for a few years.
Yeah.
No matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, just finish it. And don't just finish it to finish it and just put it out there. Like, still make it great as it was supposed to be in the beginning. And I think if everybody had been on board, it would have been finished a long time ago. But with it just kind of falling back to me and to Brian, you know, we took our time with it because we both had other stuff going on.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you know, the goal has really been this album, and past this album, I don't know that there is any other goals for VerseCity.
One of the things that a lot of artists are deciding on is whether or not they should sign with like a major label, or if they should sign maybe a distribution deal or something like that. Like, what would you recommend an artist that's just starting out to go for, especially with this day and age?
I would recommend an artist who's starting out, like, really focus on your material, your songs. If your songs are great, it's gonna make everything else that much easier for you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're looking to where should you spend your money, don't go and blow all your money on Instagram ads.
Yeah.
You know, put your money into your music. Make sure you've got a great product first. Because if your music sucks, you might get the attention of people early on, but you've got crappy recordings, and then the people you had their attention, you lost them, and they're not gonna come back. They're gonna remember that they already heard you and they didn't like you.
Yeah.
So first impressions are important, and the music is what's most important. So put your money into your music first, and then once you've got good recordings, I would actually recommend going through like a publishing company. Like Polaroid Summer recently, we signed with a publishing company, and I didn't understand what that was years and years ago. You know, like I've learned over the years what a publishing company is and what publishers do, which is basically like getting your music in TV and film, commercials, in the background and stuff like that. A lot of artists make a lot of money every year because they had a song in the background of a commercial.
Yeah.
And that money, every time that commercial airs, you know, that's more money that you get that just gets sent to you. And you're just sitting at home chilling. You wrote a song 2 years ago, it got in a commercial a year after that. You know, you've been done with that song for years. You put in a lot of work into writing the song maybe 5-6 years ago, and then all of a sudden you start getting money in the mail from it because it was in the background of a commercial, and that's what publishing companies do. So get your music right, and then seek out a good publisher. You got to find somebody who believes in you and what you're doing with your music. So that's what I would do first. And once you start getting that traction going, then labels start coming in, booking agents start coming in, and distribution starts coming in, and then you just got to be smart about who you go with. So
And do you believe like signing with like a major or even a lesser label is a better way to go, or does it depend on the situation? We got like some artists these days and even bands, they have trouble trying to get their stuff like their masters or things like that. How would you go about?
man, I don't know if there's a right way, because you have artists who have been extremely successful signing with labels, and they've had great careers, and the relationship stays fluid. But then you've also had situations, like you said, where like artists sign with a label, they want to leave the label, and they can't. The label owns their master, so they don't own their own music, And even sometimes it's artists who write their own songs, and they don't own the songs that they wrote under that label, and that's tough, man. I can't imagine what that feeling would be like. So it really just depends. I don't think there's any wrong or right way. There's definitely a lot of wrong ways, but there's not a right way to do it. You just have to be smart about the decisions you make and people that you decide to work with.
And like you were saying before, when you signed with that one label, and they were kind of pushing you guys to make music that wasn't really what you wanted to make, or like, do you think your fans would have wanted that, or do you think that
No,
may have been?
I think they didn't. I think our fans were disappointed. We had a pretty big fan base, and so we signed with the label. First thing they wanted to do was change the name VerseCity to something else, and we as a band, when we decided to sign with them, we were in too deep at that point to back out. So we just tried to stay positive about it, and we tried to just go forward with it.
Yeah.
We didn't really like the idea of a name change.
Yeah.
We didn't really like the idea of them bringing in writers to write songs for us, right? But we were excited at the fact that, like, hey, we've been doing this for a few years. We just signed a record deal. We're like a signed band now.
Yeah.
And we tried to buy into it. We really tried. And I think the lesson we learned there was, like, we tried to, I guess to an extent, sell out and buy into something that wasn't who we were.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. That label, they didn't like what we were, for whatever reason they wanted to sign us, but they didn't like our stuff. They wanted to change our band name, and they wanted us to get all of our fans to come over to this new band.
Sounds like they kind of wanted almost like a frame that they could kind of mold it.
Yeah, I don't know what, they hyped me up a lot. They told me they thought, that I could be a star. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe they really did believe in me as a performer, as an artist. They just wanted to mold it how they thought it should be, but it wasn't a great fit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're gonna run into that sort of situation where you want to buy in and you want to be excited about it, but it's just not a good fit.
And so you have been seen wearing a lot of different shoes at your shows.
What are those?
What? These?
I just had to mess with you.
These are boots, man. They're pretty cool. They're combat boots.
What are your favorite sneakers and why? Like, what are your favorite sneakers before, man?
So, I think it was one of our first shows. Actually, it was real early on. I think it might have been our second or third show we ever played as VerseCity. We were the opening act for like a local Houston show that had a couple of other big Houston bands on it, right? There's a venue called Fitzgerald's, which doesn't exist anymore, sadly, but this one local band who was like kind of blowing up at the time, they rented out the entire venue, upstairs stage and downstairs stage, and they booked 10 bands.
Wow.
And we opened up the show on like the smaller downstairs stage. And me and Solo went to, we would go into, I think, Urban Outfitters or something that day to like buy our outfits for the show.
Styled up.
They had these gold Nike kicks that I'm wearing right now.
Ooh, okay.
And from that show on, these became my show kicks.
Mm-hmm.
And I wore them at, I would say, probably about 90% of our shows. I tried to wear a couple of different other shoes. That's probably why you said you wear a few different ones.
Are you trying to get a sponsorship from Nike or something?
I mean, I've tried to find these shoes again since then because you can tell these are pretty old and worn out, and I haven't been able to find them. So if Nike wants to hook me up, I won't be mad at them.
Yeah, get you a Nike deal. So, let's move on to some tougher questions. Why do you think things ended the way they did? Why do you think it just, kind of fell apart?
I think.
Is there any beef still going on?
Any beef?
Making some quarter pounders around here?
I think that we're talking about like just different personalities and different egos, and when we started, when Solo and I started together, we were basically, teenagers and freshmen in college, and it was just like, as you grow older and you change and you become more of an adult, you have more responsibility, your lifestyle changes, and I think that, we butt heads a lot about different things within the band, and we'd always be cool, like we were always cool. And I think, maybe he just got to a point where, I think he just was tired of the stress, maybe. I don't know exactly. I know me and him talked about it, and he had apologized to me about the way things kind of ended. And we're cool. I don't have any, there's no bad beef, as far as that goes.
Only good beef?
Huh?
Only good beef? None frozen beef, right?
Only good beef, like I still love him. I think he's super talented.
Yeah.
I think, him and I together was a great mix. And I think it was, a blessing.
I mean, that brother can play.
Yeah, he's a great guitar player. But his ability, his songwriting ability is great.
Cause he can sing pretty.
He's a good singer. He has a really cool, kind of unique voice.
What's the chances of maybe bringing him or one of the other band members on to the new band?
I think that's a 0% chance.
0%.
I think Polaroid Summer is just a completely separate project, and it's going great as is. Polaroid Summer we've talked about bringing in maybe another member or so, just in general, and we decided we didn't want to bring anybody in, period. So it's not necessarily that we don't want to bring in anybody from VerseCity. It's just that as a band, like, we want to keep it, we're a 3-piece, and we just want to keep it small and chill and roll like that. So.
Gotcha. And what do you miss the most about VerseCity?
This is going to be a 2-part answer. The first part of it is that we had such a great fan base, and so many people who came and supported us over the years. It kind of would go in waves. We'd have a group of 10 to 20 fans who would come to every show for like 2 years, and then some of them would, like, back then we were young, our fans were pretty young too, they were high school age, they'd go off to college. Yeah. So then we'd have it, somehow we'd find a new group of fans, like, and it's just like, then the old fans would come back, and it just grew and it grew and it grew, and we had such a great group of just like diehard fans who really supported us, who were there for us. Didn't matter if we put out a bad song, they still loved us, and so like, that's definitely one of the things I miss the most, is just how great our fan base was. The other part of that, I think one of my favorite things about VerseCity was our long-winded rehearsals that we used to have. We had a rehearsal space, and we would rehearse 3 or 4 times a week, and we'd spend hours on end just writing, playing these songs, playing a lot of the songs that are on this album. Man, we would just play them over and over because we wanted to, because we turned the lights off. We had a bunch of like strobe lights and like stage lighting, that like laser lights and stuff. We turned the the house lights off, and we turn on all of our like stage lighting.
Yeah.
And we would just rock. There was nobody else in that room with us. I mean,
That's
sometimes
pretty cool.
sometimes we
good
have
to
a
set up the
guest.
atmosphere like that.
Yeah, sometimes we have a guest or two come to rehearsal, you know, but people who, you know, with a friend of a band member or something, but we just rocked because we loved the songs, like, and we would just like these rehearsals, man. We would just like we were going. It was like we were on stage in front of 1,000 people or 10,000 people, right? Like, I remember one time, like I like rolled my ankle real bad. I was going so nuts in rehearsal. I stepped on a speaker and like rolled my ankle, and my ankle swelled up. And we had a show, I think 2 days later, and like I could barely walk. I took like a bunch of pain pills right before the show so I wouldn't feel it and I could still move around stage.
Somewhere out there right now, there's a Beehive fan saying, "You pussy." Beyonce twisted her ankle and she's out there dancing on it.
Yeah, I'm not Beyonce. That's why she's Beyonce and I'm me. But I think, you know, those nights and those rehearsals where we poured our hearts into those songs in a rehearsal space when nobody was watching.
Yeah.
Those were some good times that I think nostalgically I look back on and just think like, man, we were really going hard. Like we were passionate about this music and these songs. And like I said, a lot of those songs are the songs that are on this album.
Mm-hmm.
The songs that some of them got cut, or we wrote them right as we were finishing up our second album, Hybrid. And we didn't want to stall that album any longer to put those songs on that album. So we just released that album, but we had the songs ready then. And we got them ready for years, and we've been playing them live for years. Victoria is a song we've been playing live for years. We've been playing Monster a long time. We've played Body a lot.
Yeah.
And a few of the other songs we've played a couple times as well. And then there's even some songs that a few people have never heard. There's a song, oh man, you asked me about my favorite songs earlier, and I forgot about this one. So there's a song called Green.
Yeah.
And it's actually a song. Green? The song's called Green.
Okay. Is this about money or is this about the other thing?
No, it's not about money. I don't know what the other thing is you're talking about. But it's a song that my dad wrote. Mm-hmm. And he put it on one of his albums, and I took it and I kind of like made my own version of his song.
Yeah.
But it's just a great song. Like, the lyrics are incredible. The melodies are great. It's powerful.
Do you know what inspired him to write that song?
Yeah, he's told me that it had to do with like the intercession between like heaven and earth, and like God in the middle, and like meeting and coming in and controlling. Not necessarily like making you move your arms a certain way, but just like you know, God meeting you in the middle and like controlling your life and steering your life in different ways, and just helping life to be more clear and having a more like positive viewpoint on where you're going. And then too, like with those like who you've lost, like being able to meet them in the middle, like they're gone but you still feel them in your heart.
Right.
And it's just a really powerful song. It's definitely one of my favorite songs on the album, and it's one that we never played live. Nobody's ever heard it.
Yeah, I haven't even heard this song. I've heard a lot of y'all songs.
Yeah.
I even was in there like with the recording studios. I haven't even heard of that.
This is one that nobody's heard before. You know, there's a song called "Believe in Me" that's sort of a rewrite of one of our very
Justin Bieber
first songs.
Believer?
No, not any Justin Bieber covers on this album.
Okay.
But the song, we had a song called "Believe" on our first album, and it was kind of like our whole movement in like our first early years. We always said "Believe in VerseCity." We had "Believe in." We got these wristbands that say "Believe" on them, right?
Okay.
And so like that was a song that we had on our first album. It was called "Believe," and we kind of did a remake of that song.
Yeah.
I stole some of the lyrics, but everything other than some of the lyrics, everything is completely different. But it's kind of like, you know, that was the version that we had when we were young, and this is the version we have now, years later. And so that's a really cool thing that I think people who've been a fan of VerseCity for a long time will be like, hey, wait, I've heard this before.
Yeah. And
this is cool. This is different. Yeah, there's a bunch of really cool songs. 13 songs is a lot, you know. And I think that even the ones that some of the fans are expecting, like Monster, they're still gonna be excited to hear the album release version versus just having to come to a show to hear the song.
Yeah. So would you say this is it for VerseCity?
I don't know. I really don't know. It might be, but I don't ever want to close the door on anything because you never know what can happen.
Right.
I'm a firm believer of anything is possible. You know, the only way to get this album right now will be through this IndieGoGo campaign. And then once that ends, it'll just be like if people want it, they have to reach out and we'll do like PayPal or Venmo or something like that. But, you know, for this album to have such a demand for VerseCity to push further, it would take some sort of a miracle. And so I think that that's possible. But I would say it's doubtful. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I don't want to rule anything out. But if I had to put a bet on it, I would say this is probably it. Yeah. This is probably the end. But you never know. We'll see.
So I don't want to give out any spoilers here, but we were in the middle of shooting a documentary for the album, and now it's kind of turned upside down to where it's like about the band breaking up and
I think it's really cool. You know, we hired Chris Nevio to come in and shoot all this behind the scenes footage when we first started recording the album, and then things kind of went south, and we still have all of this really good footage. And really, I think if we ever release any of this footage and we ever put it out there, it's really going to be about it's going to be about the music, how real the music is, and how hard it is to be in a group of 4 or 5 different personalities and trying to make it work while you're also trying to be creative and passionate about art.
Spam 5,000 likes will make that documentary happen.
Yeah, so I think that I think we're not the only band who's going through something like this. There's other bands out there, but we have footage of the process. We have footage of the early days in the studio when things are going great and we're joking around. Right. And then we have footage of that first show with Solo quit, and we had a show that week or whatever it was, 10 days later. Yeah. We had that first show, and you did interviews with us outside after the show, like how we felt about playing a show without Solo. And some of the guys had only been in the band for a year at that point. But for me, he was beside me on stage at every show for, I don't know what it had been, 8 years up to that point.
There's your own stage, your vibe, your chemistry kind of fell off,
for sure.
He wasn't on stage.
It was off.
Did you what was your adjustment period? How long did it take you to kind of adapt to?
It didn't. I couldn't adapt, not within VerseCity without him there. And maybe I could have had we kept going as a band, but after he left, a couple other guys left. So we didn't really, that was pretty much it. So I didn't really get a chance to try and adjust without him. It took me joining a completely different band to be able to reestablish myself with different guys in a different group on stage. Yeah. So that show was a really weird show for me. We had a good amount of fans come out to that show, I remember. And so I really just tried to pour into them, make a lot of eye contact and hand contact, with them and perform for them. But man, that was tough. I was hurt inside at that show. I remember it was just a tough show.
Is that a lot of mental stress? Do you get any type of forms of anxiety going on stage?
I don't now. I don't think I got anxiety then, but I definitely, it was like for me when that first went down, it was like a really bad breakup. It was weird. It was he wasn't my boyfriend, but it was it felt something like a really bad relationship breakup because I loved him like a brother. Yeah. It's like family. And he was like family to me. And for that to happen the way it did, and I didn't really understand it, to be honest, I still don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
But I have a better understanding of him, and that he felt like he needed a change.
Yeah.
And I respect that. So I think I was just like, more than anything, I was just hurt, and it was tough, man. That show was really, really tough for sure.
Yeah. Are there any other songs on the album that have a cool or a special meaning for you?
Well, we talked about Green.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song on the album called Rise Up Lights.
Rise Up Lights?
Rise Up Lights.
Okay.
And what's kind of cool about that is if you say the name of the song really fast, it sounds like you're saying razor blades with an Australian accent. Okay, so listen for razor blades, okay? Rise Up Lights. You hear it? You hear the Australian? You hear it?
Let me try it. Rise Up Lights.
Yeah.
I'm Australian now, people.
Right, so it's like saying razor blades with an Australian accent. Rise Up Lights.
That's funny.
That's just a silly thing that I noticed when we were writing it.
Yeah.
I don't remember where it clicked, but so that song's really
Gotta
cool.
get that song to our Australian fans out there.
Right, yeah. They'll think it's about like slitting your wrist or something. Not at all.
Oh man.
Let's see what else we got. There's a song called Crash Down. It's really cool. A few of these songs are like upbeat songs about relationships and like relationships that are just starting out and like are fun, like the fun stage of a relationship.
Yeah.
There's a couple songs like that on there. Victoria is a really cool song about
Not relationships.
not relationships. It's just about like just being victorious.
Mm-hmm.
And
Y'all performed that one at the U of H.
we did, yeah. We performed that one a lot.
Yeah.
Especially the last couple of years there. It was a song that we all loved to perform just because it had a lot of energy and was like really powerful. Let's see, what else we got on there? We have we released a live version of the song Take It Out On You.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the recorded version of that one on there.
Okay.
It's a cool one. There's so many. 13 songs is a lot to think off the top of my head.
What were the now you did say that y'all had songs that y'all voted on and songs that you knew for sure you wanted on the album.
Mm-hmm.
What was your pick? The one that just had to go on the album.
I probably either picked The End or Victoria.
Okay.
I can't remember. I probably waited to see if one of those songs got voted in by somebody else, and I took my vote last, so I didn't have to pick
Cheating.
between the two. If I'm honest about it, but it was probably one of those two.
Okay.
Because those two songs are both like heavier musically and heavier like emotionally.
Okay.
More powerful songs, more meaningful than just like, hey, I like you.
Yeah.
You're cool, type of a song. And so both of those songs were two songs that like I was real passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And those songs made me feel something like when we performed them. Even when I listen to it still, like they make me feel something more than just like that's a cool, catchy pop song.
Yeah.
And so those were the two. It was one of those two. I can't remember which one.
Mm-hmm. Well, one other thing. So VerseCity was more like it had some poppy influences, but it also had some more darker influences as well, and more rock.
Mm-hmm.
And with Polaroid Summer, it's kind of more poppy, a little bit different. Like, was it like an adjustment that you had to go through it personally, or?
No, I think it's just like the identity of the band is just different. Even the name Polaroid Summer, you think like Polaroid is sort of nostalgic, like old-timey, cool, hip, and summer is like you think like fun times, it's summertime. So like that, the name of the band itself like is the identity of the band. And so like for the most part, most of our stuff is just going to be more fun-loving, positive type of material. But we definitely are going to have some songs that still have like some emotion and some power in them. There's a song that we haven't released yet called Feeling Connected that's about losing somebody.
Okay.
You know, and then like one of my favorite songs that Polar Summer has released is Tides. And that song's about like overcoming addiction. It's a little heavier. But yeah, most of our stuff is, you know, like a little bit lighter and poppier feel. And I think that just comes down to the identity of the band and the personalities that make up the band. So.
Okay.
What's up, guys? The new album, The End, is finally finished and is available for pre-order. Just go to the link in our bio or the link below this post. Click on it, pre-order the album. This is the only way you can actually get the album. It'll be sent to you on November 1st. And I'm excited that it's finished. Throw your visa. Alright, so if you guys want to hear the first song off of our new album, The End, Monster is available to listen to on our SoundCloud right now. If we get our sales up on our IndieGoGo account up around $300, we will release a second song and we will let you guys pick that song. So share this, let people know that the album is out. Anyone you might have been friends with who might have loved VerseCity back in the day, let them know it's out. Let them know to go pre-order the album now. And we will release a second song, like I said, if we get the sales up around $300. And we'll let you guys pick which song off the album you want to hear next.